멈춰라. 이게 그 천감성의 오망인가? 씨발.
I'm gonna show you two ultimate attacks from two different anime arena fighter style games. You tell me which one you thought hit harder.
I'm ending this! This will finish it!
Both looked good and are technically very impressive, but odds are you thought that this one looked like it hit harder. That's because of one key aspect in animation and choreography: impact. I was watching Maximilian Dude's Rate the Super series, and at the time, he was covering a bunch of different anime arena fighter games like Sparking Zero, the Naruto Storm series, and even the Demon Slayer game by CyberConnect. In these videos, Max talked about how, while Sparking Zero looks nice, the UNS series and, to a lesser extent, the Demon Slayer game, have a quality to their supers and ultimates that just puts them head over heels above anything else, let alone Sparking Zero. While CyberConnect does fantastic animation work in choreography direction, I think the thing they excel at, what makes them the kings of supers regardless of the scale, is a culmination of multiple elements into one crucial thing: impact. Now, when I say impact, I'm pretty sure most anyone here can imagine what I'm referring to. It's a little difficult to describe or accurately put into words, but it's fairly easy to conjure up the image of what impact is mentally. That said, it's such a broad concept with so many potential applications that I feel like it would better help to explain my point if I broke impact down to its core elements to explain how CyberConnect uses impact so effectively where other games of a similar style may fail. First, a big part of what I think makes Impact so visually effective in the Storm series, and a major part of why I think players are able to better feel the weight of attacks, is how the impact of an attack or transformation affects the environment. Something Max also touched on in his Storm series Rate the Supers. For comparison, let's look at some ultimate attacks from Naruto in the Storm series, and some ultimates from Goku in Sparking Zero. Let's start with the most basic, low-level, low-impact ultimate from Naruto, his ultimate as a kid, versus Goku's ultimate as a kid in Sparking Zero, and see how they impact the environment. With Goku, while the ultimate definitely has some great build-up, something we'll talk about later, its environmental effect is also minimal as well, discounting the after effect of the ultimate, which isn't particularly stunning or impressive, and isn't even part of the cutscene proper. Then you look at Naruto's, and while it's definitely minimal, you at least have things like him kicking up clouds of dust when he leaps up, you have the smoke from his shadow clones, you have the actual environmental effect, in addition to things we'll talk about later, like perspective, build-up, and pacing. Now let's bump it up to Shippuden Naruto and early Z Goku. Naruto's Rasen Shuriken has wind coming off of it as he charges up the move, wind spiraling off of the shuriken and the target when the attack is launched, and it generates an outward current of wind off of the chakra explosion. The attack affects the environment in addition to the enemy. The attack is part of the world. Goku's Spirit Bomb? The basic Spirit Bomb is actually one of the better ults in terms of environmental effect, but unfortunately the effect is really only to the level of Kid Naruto. This ultimate certainly has other things going for it, namely its good build-up and fantastic direction, but the best of its environmental impact is pretty much the plume of blue smoke created by the Spirit Bomb detonating, which, to the ultimate's credit, is formed in the direction of the bomb, upward and outward. Now Sage Mode Naruto and Mid-Z Goku. Again, Naruto's Rasen Shuriken generates a current of wind when he's charging it, and you can see it cutting through drag when he throws it, but additionally, you can also see it kicking up rubble when it explodes. Goku's large Spirit Bomb has an impactful charge up, and the visual direction giving the Spirit Bomb physical weight by having Goku struggle to hold it up and stomp his foot down to push against its weight is great, but a Spirit Bomb that swallows a planet-busting attack from Frieza should maybe do more than just kick up some dimly lit rubble and just burst into nothing. Granted, the moment where the bomb is caught not stacking up is more so a failing of the direction here. A side shot of them resisting the bomb into maybe a wide-scale shot of the sheer magnitude of the size of the bomb and the destruction it's wreaking on the environment maybe would have been better here. And the explosion being relegated to a plume of smoke following a pretty impressive buildup was a failure to exceed expectations. An element of impact we'll discuss later that's one of the most important aspects, but nonetheless, if the direction and the end result are detracting from the experience and making the environmental impact worse, then there's a problem. Naruto's attacks so far have had minimal environmental impact as well, just some wind and rubble, but the direction and end result used and enhanced the environmental impact or were enhanced by the environmental impact. With Naruto, all the elements work together cohesively. In Sparking Zero, some aspects are actively sabotaging others. And then there's Sage Art Naruto and Super Saiyan Mid-Z Goku. Super Saiyan Mid-Z Goku probably has one of the best ultimates in the game. The direction and build-up are great, the initial launch is awesome, the actual moment the enemy gets hit is fantastic because it lingers on them being hit by this powerful blast for a moment, then the end explosion is just okay, but I can appreciate that the explosion seamlessly transitions from the lingering moment of impact during the cutscene and is pretty impressive, and the explosion itself actually has a pretty decent and pronounced impact on the environment because they let the shot linger for longer than a half second. It even has an awesome end cutscene if you beat the enemy with Angry Kamehameha, referencing when Goku defeated Frieza with it. It's really great. Naruto's Sage Art ult is an example of something a little closer to the Sparking Zero norm. Explosions are a good environment impact, but it definitely doesn't come to the level of the Storm series standard. That said, even a lower level Naruto Ultimate whoops the average Sparking Zero Ultimate overall thanks to their usage of timing, lingering shots, and visual and auditory direction. This is basically the best Sparking Zero has to offer versus just an average ult from the Storm series. Case in point, the very next version of Naruto, the Tailed Beast Bomb version, has better environmental impact than literally anything in Sparking Zero. In effect, the Tailed Beast Bomb is a bit basic, but the direction is good, the charge is effective at building hype and anticipation, the splice of Naruto and Kurama being of one mind adds emotional weight to the attack, and then it blows up like a nuclear bomb and creates a massive crater on the scale of surrounding mountains. Compare that to one of the single most devastating attacks in Dragon Ball Z, the Super Spirit Bomb, and what do we get? Well, the clouds swirl a bit overhead as the bomb is charging, that's good. The direction sucks since we don't even get a shot of them catching the bomb like Boo did, which kind of informs the whole reason as to why Goku has to turn into a Super Saiyan to force it through. And then the explosion goes off and it's just like a Rasen Shuriken. Like, I'm not expecting the whole planet to explode or anything, but previous Budokai games had stuff like this, and even the recent Fighter Z fighting game had stuff like this. So why is this Spirit Bomb that defeated the strongest enemy in DBZ just bursting like a Big Bang attack and then dissipating like a fart in the wind? The instant transmission Kamehameha is pretty alright. It launches the target back and blows up into blue smoke. But as opposed to Sparking Zero, where, compared to Angry Kamehameha, everything is either mid or just not great at all in terms of environmental effect, the Storm series ultimates just keep getting better and better. Compare even the instant transmission Kamehameha and the Super Spirit Bomb to how Kurama linked Naruto's ultimate affects the world around him. He generates an explosion of smoke and wind just from summoning Kurama. They both suck in air currents and chakra to charge their respective attacks. Naruto's Rasen Shuriken cuts through the air and kicks up rubble as it sails towards the target. Kurama's Beast Bombs have a similar effect as they combine with the Rasen Shuriken, and then we get another masterpiece explosion to show us the power and scale of the attack. An explosion that even makes great use of delay and audio direction, even separately from the rest of the attack. The last nail in the coffin is Naruto Sage of the Six Paths. We can see how powerful Kurama is just by the dust storm he kicks up literally just from jumping, then classic Rasen Shurikens cut through the air with some of the best visual effects to this point, then we get this magnificent directing and perspective moment that also lingers, fantastic combination of multiple direction effects at an incredibly high level for immense impact, and then not only do we get the typical amazing explosion for scale and power, but it then implodes into a black hole. In Sparking Zero, this would be so peak, people would joke that an ultimate like this would be where the entire budget went to. They'd be joking that this ultimate is the reason why the game took 20 years to make. Why BT3 needed 20 years to get a direct sequel. What do we get in comparison in Sparking Zero with Goku Super Saiyan 2 and 3 ults? Well, Super Saiyan 2 definitely isn't bad. Super Kamehameha has good visual effect, which can somewhat cover for lacking environmental effect, but it certainly doesn't compare to having high levels of both like Six Paths Naruto's ultimate has. SSJ3 has the win from the punch, the explosion from the creation of the dragon, the actually high levels of visual effects from the dragon and the impact, good direction and timing and everything, and even a fire end slide to boot. But unfortunately, even with everything firing at a 10 for Sparking Zero, that's only, like, above Sage Mode Naruto and still probably below Tailed Beast Bomb in terms of sheer technical showings. It has good impact, but its level of impact is just good at best. Never great or exceptional like Storm Series ults. And I think one of the main leg ups the Storm Series has is due to their extensive, high-level use of the environment. Super Goku's Universal Spirit Bomb is a step up in environmental usage, but is marred by the strange direction choice to have the camera constantly zoom in and out and hard cut between Goku and the bomb. Sonic Blast has really good direction and pacing, but basically no environmental effect. God Goku's ult has a great explosion and a nice lingering shot of it, but is way too fast in one note. And Blue Goku's ultimate has some of the best build-up in the game, but the worst payoff out of any ultimate in Sparking Zero. Comparatively, the last Naruto, who's even light on environmental effect by this stage, has the expansion of his clone army into a literal pillar of punches that explodes outward to a size eclipsing nearby mountains and tearing apart everything in its path, and stems all the way up to the literal atmosphere. Hokage Naruto has so much environmental impact that his ultimate has a background, a Storm Series cutscene, and a literal Budokai Tenkaichi 3 ending shot, and Baryon mode Naruto literally looks like something out of a high-production anime. Not even talking about direction, or sound design, or timing, or anything else. He's got a background specific for his ultimate again. He's moving so fast he melts the ground beneath him in a line. He strikes the enemy into the air and parts the clouds above them. He Rasengans the target back down and parts the hole in the clouds even bigger. And we finish with the Storm signature wide-scale massive explosion. This is art. This is proper use of the environment to sell the impact and power of an attack. Having UI Sign Goku break the ground with the impact of his punches and his point-blank Kamehameha is fine. Having UI Goku destroy some of the ground and make a big blue smoke cloud with Supreme Kamehameha is okay, but it doesn't sell the impact at all. Have UI Sign's Kamehameha do the Saitama thing from his fight with Genos. Have the Supreme Kamehameha from UI Goku push the target into the ground and blow up the entire arena. Something. GT Goku's Universal Spirit Bomb has a lot of the same good stuff as the large Spirit Bomb and the normal Spirit Bomb, but looking at what it did to the city Goku was fighting Omega in GT, it could have done so much more. Super Saiyan GT Goku's Super Explosive Wave literally just kicks up rubble like a worse Rasen Shuriken. GT SSJ3's Dragon Fist has a lot of good stuff like normal SSJ3's ult and even finishes with a Kamehameha, but aside from some colored smoke clouds, again relies solely on the visual effects rather than having the impact on the world around the fight show how powerful the attacks are. And Super Saiyan 4, my GOAT, probably has one of the few ultimate attacks that uses environmental destruction and uses it well by having the floor shatter both times the Dragon Fist strikes connect, but even still the scale needs more. I want to see wide-scale shots of the dragon flying around, descending from the heavens, fucking smashing the absolute shit out of the target, and then annihilating the entire map. I want wide-scale obliteration, even if it's just a cutscene. Alright, I think I've made my point about how important it can be to use the environment to show how powerful an attack is when you want to express the high level of impact, but that's not the only thing that matters. So let's take a look at something I spoke at length about in the earlier section, visual and auditory direction. The Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm series is obviously the absolute king of impact, but there are other series with incredibly impactful ultimates as well, other series that Sparking Zero could take notes from. For this section, let's compare the direction of the ultimate attacks in One Piece Burning Blood and Sparking Zero. Since Goku got plenty of love in our first section, let's examine how Vegeta's ultimates compare to Luffy's in Burning Blood. First, pre-time skip Luffy versus Scouter Vegeta. For pre-time skip Luffy, I think the visual and audio direction are very well done. We zoom out from Luffy's face and start with Luffy in Gear 2nd, rearing his arm back for a punch as a high-pitched note plays in the background, signifying a sort of power-up. The camera is tilted with Luffy's striking hand positioned in the top left-hand corner of the screen, the highest and farthest away point due to the use of perspective, and Luffy's other hand is in the bottom right, closest to the viewer and the target that Luffy is aiming for, and outstretched and lining up Luffy's incoming jet pistol. Directionally, the entire scene is telling us, the viewers, that Luffy is gearing up to launch forward literally like a stretched rubber band. He then launches that jet pistol right at the screen, and, after a transition into gameplay, we're met with a high-octane, action-packed, high-speed sequence of Luffy pummeling the target with a flurry of strikes. The whole time, the camera is capturing all of the action, switching around as Luffy shaves around his target, jumps up for attacks, barrels into the opponent, and finishes with a jet bazooka that starts from all the way back where Luffy's palms are stretched, transitions to a close-up of Luffy as he dashes forward, and then finishes with a nice overhead shot of Luffy delivering the penultimate blow. The whole time we're getting those great Gear 2nd sound effects, true to the anime, and then we get the big finale. Luffy blows into his thumb and activates Gear 3rd, and as he rears his massive fist back, his arm covers the screen briefly, which transitions us into the ultimate screen with the colored background. We get a 360 shot around Luffy, zooming right up to his massive fist colliding with the target with a big, distinct physical impact. Then smash cut to target getting washed, and Luffy briefly shrinking down due to the downside of Gear 3rd. Okay, a lot of use of transitions and rotating shots and perspective stuff. It made the tons of stuff that happened in that ult very fast-paced and action-packed. We got to see everything, we were up close and personal with the action, and it was all very well choreographed with no weird breaks in the pace. For Dirty Fireworks, I think this ultimate is also very well directed visually, but the audio really hurts it. For the entire striking portion of the ult, the camera sticks to an upward-facing angle on Vegeta's right side, and I think that that's a great decision here because all of Vegeta's big power shots are at an upward angle and come from his right hand. Vegeta dashes forward for the initial shovel hook. We also get this brief lull, a fantastic pacing decision that really lets that big right-hand shot sink in. And then, in a single take shot, the camera follows Vegeta as he continues the forward pressure with a left, and then a barrage of strikes finishing with a big left uppercut. Sure, it starts from the opposite side as the one the camera is focusing on, but the key frame for the impact is the moment the strike connects. And from the right side, not only do we have a full and clear view of the target and the uppercut connecting square in the chin, but we also get to see Vegeta's face as well, his teeth gritting and his eyes wide as he sinks the strike. The uppercut sends the enemy airborne, and the camera, still in one take, follows them up before Vegeta snap vanishes right in front of him and delivers one more powerful launching right-hand blow to the target's body, launching them off into the distance. It's at this point where we basically get the first pseudo break of the shot, where the camera whips around to show Vegeta doing the dirty firework technique, and then it shows the effect and the ult is over. The end is a little lacking. It might have been nice to see a reaction from the person exploding, have it zoom out to the iconic shot as the person exploded, smash cut to the smoke from the explosion, and then have it clear to reveal Vegeta's smiling face. The choreography and cinematography for this ultimate was good at selling the impact, but it lacked a bit in showmanship and audio. Technically speaking, while it was good at showing the impact of the strikes, it lacked the directional aspects that Burning Blood included that give each strike that extra oomph, and these hard-hitting power shots should not just be sounding like normal punches. Also, where Gear 2nd successfully executed an ending that met and exceeded expectations of its build-up, I felt that Dirty Fireworks fell flat at the end. Like, the technique just kinda happened and then it was over. The build-up was more exciting and action-packed, which, when doing impact, is very bad. It's like when a song has a great build-up, but when the bass drops, you suddenly realize that this song is ass. It's very disappointing when an ultimate, the character's strongest, most devastating attack, fails to execute an impactful ending because the most commonly followed formula for an impactful ultimate is much like a Kamehameha itself. A big charge up, the awesome build up, into an explosion of vast magnitude, the release. An ultimate should strive for the viewer to receive a cathartic dopamine hit from watching the ultimate telegraph what it's going to do, and then conforming to the expectations, or better yet, exceeding them. Vegeta did all that punching and launching and everything just to point at him and he blows up and it's done. Sure, Luffy just punches a guy with a big hand in effect, but the presentation is what separates them. We see Luffy blowing his hand up, rearing back this massive fist while belting off some one-liner. The camera spins around to give the strike motion. He's positioned as though he's leaping into the strike. They're really giving this punch a lot of bells and whistles. And then boom! He punches the guy so hard he gets launched out of the arena and into the background. Also touching on that environmental destruction we spoke of earlier. Let's look at some other examples from Luffy and Vegeta. For Great Ape Vegeta's Super Gallic Gun, it's another well-done ultimate. We start with an upward angled camera shot starting at Vegeta's stomping foot, and pan up to Vegeta's face as he roars. We then follow Vegeta's hands rearing up into the Gallic Gun charge position, we switch around to watch the energy gather in his hands, and then we quickly switch to Vegeta's face as he says, "Now die," and we get a wide shot of him launching the attack. Finally, when the shot lands, we get to see the target getting blasted, and we even get an awesome shot of Vegeta's face transposed onto the explosion of the blast as we finish with a Vegeta "you lose" and a big purple explosion. I like it. It's got good camera work, I like Vegeta's yapping, and the beam hitting has all the good little extra stuff. This attack has good impact. Now let's look at post-time skip Luffy. In Gear 4th, Luffy leaps up into the air and coils his arms. We get a couple of shots of this, and then, as Luffy jets forward, the cameraman instantly pans around to follow him as he zips away. Luffy then darts in directly towards the camera and the target in an almost POV shot, and it quickly switches to a wide shot as he connects with a powerful Leo bazooka. Then we get the finisher. Luffy sails up into the sky, we zoom in on his face as he blows up his right arm, and it zooms out to see the arm expand. The camera spins around as he rears back the fist. We zoom in on his face as he says "Gum Gum King Kong Gun," and then we zoom outward and tilt the camera angle downward as Luffy launches the massive fist downward onto his target. There's this moment where the fist does this, like all the compressed rubber pushes the punch right into the opponent's face. That is perfect last-minute telegraphing done by a momentary delay in the pacing. Perfect for giving the impact an extra boost as it's a delayed telegraph right before the impact. Then we get the impact, the fist connects, we see the opponent getting struck in a brief lingering shot, and then the fist does the rubber thing again. It does another delayed telegraph, and then the opponent is pushed and struck right into the ground, shattering the ground in the process and causing this big explosion gust of wind. Burning Blood just absolutely kills it with direction, man. Say what you will about the game itself, I like it, but I know it's an acquired taste. But their ultimate direction is nutty. The impact is so good. Now, let's look at early Z Vegeta. How's the direction of his ults? Super Explosive Wave is pretty alright. Got a rotating zooming shot to telegraph the incoming outward explosion. It has a shot of the opponent getting blown up, but it's a little one note and I wish there was a little more oomph to the end. Super Saiyan Vegeta's Big Bang attack is a little more involved. It has a zoom-in shot when the move is initiated, it spins 360 and zooms out a bit to get a nice shot of Vegeta standing with his palm extended, a POV shot of the target about to get hit, I like that, and then we get a zoom into Vegeta's face, a perspective switch to the Big Bang attack, and even a zoom into the Big Bang attack as the blast itself shrinks and condenses. When it hits, we get a nice lingering zoom on the opponent's face as they become more and more enveloped in the blast, almost like a POV of the Big Bang attack itself, and at a close zoom, we get a big fast zoom outward timed to the explosion. This ultimate slaps. The Burning Blood ult is of course more involved and has more direction technique, but for an attack that is, by nature, a single big ki blast, they did exceptionally well with the direction here. If even half of the effort that was put into this Big Bang attack was put into something like the Dirty Fireworks ending, it would end up being as good as, if not better than, anything in Burning Blood. The audio direction is still awful, but that's a problem that persists throughout all of Sparking Zero. Something that looks like that should be having more of an auditory impact than this. Super Vegeta's Final Flash is unfortunately a lot like Blue Goku's Kamehameha. Really good direction when it comes to the build-up, a lot of good camera work and visual effects, and just a very basic beam blast with no real punch beyond having good physical direction of movement. Something interesting though, if you actually slow the ultimate down, it actually looks fantastic. Check this out. I think Sparking Zero has a really bad pacing problem with a lot of its ults, and it really hurts attacks that use this animation in particular since the keyframes are actually really impactful. While we're looking at Vegeta, let's also look at his End of Z version to pick out some great direction moments and some not so great flops. Base Vegeta's Big Bang attack starts great, with this nice Dutch angle upward view from where his hand is charging the Ki Blast. This over-the-shoulder shot into Vegeta's POV is really nicely executed, and a great addition to make the attack distinct from the prior Big Bang attack. And I think the explosion is solid enough, considering we get a shot of it blowing up the target, and the Ki Blast even seems to have some forward-moving line work, which is a nice touch. Overall, this gets like a solid 7 out of 10 direction-wise. I think it does a better than average job of conveying the impact of the attack. Cosmic Circle is like a 5 out of 10. The decision to just zoom in on Vegeta's face while he fills the arena with blasts is strange, and while it allows the field of Ki Blasts to be a shock, it ruins the pacing and action of the ultimate. Though strictly looking at the final impact of the ultimate, the blasts coming together is given a moment of telegraph beforehand when the field of Ki Blasts is revealed, and them converging at Vegeta's gesture is cathartic, so that was good impact. Super Saiyan 2's Infinity Flasher is well paced, each shot gets their own moment, the black flashes preceding the keyframes accentuate each strike and literally show us the impact of each strike, and the finishing over-the-shoulder final flash uses Vegeta as an anchor point to show the scale and forward power of the attack, while also delivering on a powerful, impactful explosion. Overall, End of Z Vegeta consistently has the best ults in terms of direction to show impact. All of them are roughly around the same level of quality as Angry Kamehameha, with some aspects even exceeding it. The coup de grace of this is, of course, Final Explosion. Not only is it one of the best ultimates in the game, this is probably one of the best renditions of the move that we've seen yet. Typical amazing Sparking Zero build-up aside, the overhead view of the explosion detonating into the explosion expanding and destroying everything until it hits the opponent, pushes them back, and completely just erupts is absolutely peak. There really aren't any notes from Burning Blood here. Sparking Zero at its best is pretty much cream of the crop, but the drastic difference between a lot of Goku's ultimates and a lot of Vegeta's ultimates goes to show that Sparking Zero isn't always at its best. Some of the ults could definitely learn from Burning Blood, but no notes on the ultimate attack of the Prince of Destruction. Now let's look at Vegeta from Super. Does he still hold up? Well, his base ult Final Flash is just a watered-down version of his earlier Final Flashes, nothing new or crazy, pretty middle of the road. Final Gallic Burst has that great first impact like Infinity Flasher, moves into a great continuous flowing combo, and the Spear Hand has a lot of good delayed pacing build-up and camera focus, with movement on the Ki Blast finish. But it's just missing that one little thing at the end for good impact, don't know what that thing is, but maybe the burst exploding instead of dissipating would work. Prominence Flash has the same Super Vegeta Final Flash problem, it's too fast considering the actually good direction and animation, and Final God Explosion is just a worse Final Explosion, not because of the direction or impact, but because of the lessened buildup. Lastly, Final Shine Attack has a really awesome spiraling camera effect as though the camera is spinning around the beam as it's zooming in all the way until we get a shot of the target getting hit with the blast. Overall very good direction here, though again, the final explosion could be slowed down a bit to really sell the punch of the attack. Where I'd say Sparking Zero mostly fails in environmental showings of power, its direction has some pretty high highs and some pretty mid averages, but nothing so egregious as to be outright bad. It's just that everything seems disappointing because the direction of the build-up is always a 10 with these guys. The key to impact is going from like a 7 to like an 11, but Sparking Zero always goes from a 10 to like a 5, which is just destined to be a letdown. Finally, for our last section, I'll be covering a couple of smaller elements or aspects of prior elements by comparing Sparking Zero to the most recent game of the last of the big three, Bleach: Rebirth of Souls. In this section, we'll be looking at timing, pacing, delay, animation, effects, and dialogue. Let's compare Ichigo and Gohan's ultimates. For Kid Gohan, the pacing starts nicely with a brief delay on each strike to let the impact show, then we get this fast-paced combo that's a good, exciting build-up, then we get a failing of direction where Gohan unleashes a barrage of blasts that we don't get to see, and finally we finish with a pretty decent explosion. It actually gets a chance to breathe. In terms of the small stuff, the pacing was good and even intentionally shifted mid-move for a specific effect, to show that Gohan's anger and assault was ramping up into a final burst, and the animation and effects were good. The strikes looked deep, the effects were good for the strikes, and the final explosion gave us a feeling of power and weight. The final yell was a good keyframe to help the delay build up on the final blast, but nothing super crazy there, and some of the yelling throughout could have been extended a bit or done in rhythm to his striking and blasting, but the only big problem was the weird choice not to show us the blast barrage before the finale. It's like a third of the entire ult. With Ichigo, while it's definitely smaller scale, he's got a great yell right before the slash which accentuates the impact of the slash, his energy flowing gives the attack momentum, there's a long lingering panning shot of him swinging Zangetsu before the slash proper, and you can even get Old Man Zangetsu in there as well. It's just one single sword slash, but that one strike is excellently executed. It also pace shifts, but gives us all of the action. His ultimate in Bankai isn't as impactful with the dialogue, but it far exceeds the prior in regards to the animation, as we see Ichigo blitzing up to the target from their POV, which also helps to build anticipation for the final strike after 3 blitzes. Specifically 3, as it's a very cathartic number for some reason, like 3 strikes you're out or 3rd time's the charm or whatever. Also, the ability to hullify and the energy surrounding Ichigo's blade also help to visually amplify it beyond just a typical sword slash. He also has this thrusting ultimate that has some awesome animation and visual effect, and the pacing and use of momentum is well done too, though it's also a little lacking in good dialogue, like a nice hearty yell to make the stab more forceful. Overall, Gohan has a good ultimate as a kid, but some mistakes from prior elements hurt it. Ichigo's ultimate is able to achieve a lot of the same things, but with none of the failings, and even in some instances, it's able to improve upon some of the existing elements. Back to Sparking Zero, Teen Gohan's Super Kamehameha doesn't even have a cutscene, it's an absolute animation L. The effects are basic, the Kamehameha shout is carrying a lot more weight here than it has any right to, the pacing kinda blows since it's basically over right after the initial blast, and the visual effects are actually alright. This is just not a very good ultimate at all. In opposition, we have Bankai Ichigo, who swings his sword back, coats it in energy, and belts out an iconic Getsuga Tensho shout as he swings the blade and blasts the target. Great pacing to allow the camera time to linger and focus on the Getsuga charge, great movement animation, the effect work for the charging blade and the blast are well done, and that Getsuga shout brings it home. Even more so with the holified version, the direction, sound design, and everything else are just so cohesive. It may just be a single sword slash, but it's succinct and does everything right. Now, Super Saiyan Teen Gohan's ultimate is a good example of Sparking Zero doing this right. He starts by firing a couple of ki blasts, nothing crazy, and then we get the Masenko. We get the technique name and a nice powerful yell. We get to see the whole beam, and instead of that mid-colored smoke cloud, we get this awesome orange final explosion dome into non-colored clouds and vermilion electricity. Like, what the fuck? Those effects and everything are so good. The dialogue makes the blast pop, and the lingering shot before the blast was just a great amp. This ult isn't crazy with impact, but it is really good, and in Sparking Zero, that's impressive. Then we have the Father-Son Kamehameha. Good visuals with the Kamehameha, Goku's spirit, and the blast swallowing the target. Good dialogue from Gohan and Goku really pushing the beam from in deep. And everything was paced well, except for the finale, which was just an in-game blue smoke explosion. Strictly in terms of this section, this ultimate did everything well, but it just goes to show that you can't just do one aspect right and have a winner, you need to succeed on some level on all of it. Let's see how Bankai Ichigo's other ult handles this. We get this awesome spiraling geyser of energy into an awesome Getsuga yell into the Getsuga itself. In addition to good direction and good environmental and visual effect, we get a good impact on the slash. Also, it's worth noting that the soul break mechanic of the game also helps lend itself to good impact because it helps to linger in the moment of impact. Now, Rebirth of Souls isn't without its faults. Bastolorde's Cero ultimate is kind of bland, like it has good sound design, good pacing, good build-up, it's all good on paper, but like the Father-Son Kamehameha, its ending just isn't there, it's just a basic blast. The other Vastolorde ult is a much better version, and maybe shows how the Father-Son Kamehameha could be improved. He does this really telegraphed, really delayed, really powerful slash, then we have a specific, focused moment where he pins the target with his foot, and then it zooms out to the really great GRC charging buildup, and then the buildup gets its payoff with a big, meaty explosion and some great laser sound effects. Maybe after the connect when it hits and Goku helps Gohan push the Kamehameha, it should either pan out to the atmosphere like it did in the anime, or have an in-cutscene explosion that gets specific focus. Adult Gohan's alts are all similar renditions to what we've seen in the past, and are improvements similar to Vasto Lorde's GRC. His Super Kamehameha is what his teen Super Kamehameha should have been. The same thing, but with an actual cutscene with a half-decent impact. The Bros Kamehameha is pretty much what Father-Son Kamehameha could have been. Big impressive explosion after the moment of impact. And honestly, I don't even mind the blue smoke here, since the impact made it a worthy payoff. And SSJ2 Gohan literally just has the final flash animation. It does seem a little slower, so it's better overall, but the highlights are pretty much this section with great visual effects and animation. We have forward movement with the beam, the delay into the implosion and subsequent explosion. It's alright, but a little tired at this point. Great Saiyaman and Ultimate Gohan also have great finishers and good animation and pacing and effects and all, but to finish off this section and this video in all, let's take a look at one of the best anime supers outside of the Storm series, the final Getsuga Tensho, and see what makes it just so dang good. This Ultimate is a special case, where the dialogue, presentation, build-up, and actual effect are the payoff. We get all these shots of him charging as he explains that this is his final ultimate attack, and after just barely whispering Mugetsu, he swings his arm down, unleashes this cleave right through the earth erupting with energy, and then he literally one-shots his opponent. Magnificent. Fantastic. We have visuals, animation, pacing, dialogue. We have direction. We have environmental effect. It's the whole kit and caboodle. This is what peak looks like, ladies and gentlemen. Alright. I hope that, in this video, I've done a good job of explaining how to achieve impact in supers and why that impact is so important to the experience of supers and ultimate attacks. Thank you all so much for watching, I hope you guys all enjoyed, and be on the lookout for my next video, the next fight of round 1 of the Kengan Maximum Tournament, a battle between the two Kung Fu Masters, Ryu Kaio versus Nikaido Ren. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.